These are the supplies we'll need to make our pearl and crochet Christmas tree. We need yarn. I'm using a scrap, a 13-yard scrap, and the scrap I'm using is sugar and cream, and the colorway is dark pine. I need a large tapestry needle, a long tapestry needle here. I need a finishing needle or a large-eyed tapestry needle that's smaller but with a large eye. And I need a 4mm crochet hook. I need a cotton thread, DMC cotton thread to match the yarn. And I'm using these pearls, 8mm pearls. You need 10 of those. Now you can use different supplies. Since we're using scrap yarn, you won't necessarily have what I have, but there's a few things to think about. Whatever size your yarn is, you'll need to have corresponding size for your crochet hook. So if you have a thicker yarn, you'll need a larger millimeter crochet hook. Also, one little wrinkle that I hadn't planned on is that this tapestry needle has to go through the eye of the pearl, which it does. Just I had to use these smaller ones to go through the eye, but I have to be able to thread this, and that's why I selected the cotton thread here, because when I tried to use the yarn, I couldn't thread the yarn and go through the eye here. So I can with this cotton thread. So I got the matching cotton thread. So that's just something you need to think about. Make sure you have the tools to go through the eye of the pearl and the corresponding supplies. Now, as I said, I do have 8mm here, but I think next time I will try to get the 10mm and see if that's a little better. But I like the look with the 8mm, so that's what we're going to do today. To start with our crocheting today, we're going to need a slip stitch. And I just wrap this around my fingers. Oop, just like this. I put the tail end in my palm. I wrap it around a couple of fingers and bring it over the top and slip that off and take the yarn that's in that loop and I can pull up, and that is a slip stitch. Get ready to start. Let's do that one more time. Take your yarn over your palm. Just make a little loop. Come around here. As you slip it off, let your yarn hang down behind that circle you've made. And you can either take your fingers, like I did the last time, or your hook and bring it up under and pull. And practice that a few times, and that's your slip stitch. That's how you're going to start almost every foundation stitch. There's so few times that you do anything else, you'll need a slip stitch of some kind to start. And then we're going to make a foundation chain for our tree. And let me pull the tree over to kind of remind you what we're going to be making. There it is. So this is a ribbon, basically. It's just a long ribbon that we've wound back and forth through here. So we want it about 26 to 28 inches long, and it's all chain stitch for the first row. And to do a chain stitch, you bring your hook down. And remember when I showed you how to hold the hook, we had a thumb here on the thumb rest, and our index finger was going to help guide this metal part of the shaft. So you just help with your finger, push down, and then push back towards your fingers and up. And look what you've done. You have captured, you have yarn over that shaft, and that is called a yarn over. You'll see that in patterns all the time. Yarn over and pull through, and you've made your first chain stitch. Now, I keep adjusting my hands as I'm holding my yarn to pinch right below the loop that's on the hook, because it helps me to give space. It helps me to make a loop, this little teardrop shape, and it makes it so much easier to crochet. So we're going to do another chain stitch, down, back, up. We have our yarn over there, and then we're going to pull through, and I've made a large enough teardrop shape that it was easy to go through there. I have my second chain stitch. Down, back, up, pull through. And I readjust my hands down here, the base of that loop that's on my chain. Down, back, up, pull through, down, back, up, pull through, down, back, up, pull through, down, back, up, pull through. And we want, depending on your tension, on the way you're, some of you are beginners, some of you are very experienced and have a nice tension on here. We want this to be 26 to 28 inches long. So keep doing chain stitches until you get to that length. Now let's see what we've got. Start over here with a 0. And we want 26 to 28 inches. And look at that, I have 28. Oops, you can't see that, can you? I have 28 inches. So that is row 1. And that was all chain stitch. And once you got to the end of that, I bet you feel pretty proficient in doing the chain stitch. Now, we're only going to have 2 rows on this. The second row is half double crochet. That's another fairly easy stitch. And we're going to, before we go into that, I want to show you the structure of these stitches. They're all made up of V's. On a chain stitch, the entire stitch is a V. And on any other stitch, the very top, it will be a V. So let's look at this. We don't count the loop that's on the hook. That's not yet a stitch. So this is the first stitch next to the hook. And so you see that's a V. The next one's a V. The next one's a V. The next one's a V. These are all V's. So now you'll be able to look at this and understand when I tell you we're going to do a yarn over. And remember that? We started our chain stitch with a yarn over, didn't we? We went down, back, and up, and that was our yarn over. Now we're going to skip the first V, the first chain stitch, and we're going to go into the second V. That's why you needed to know how to identify these stitches. So we're going to go into the second V, second chain stitch from the hook. We're going to grab some more yarn, another yarn over, and just pull it through. And that's giving us 3 loops on this hook. And I always kind of pull and adjust so that each one of those loops is a nice teardrop that I can pull yarn through. And now we're going to do a yarn over and pull through all 3 of those loops. Now you might have to wiggle to get through, and that's perfectly acceptable. So let's do another yarn over. Every single one of these chain stitches is going to have a half double crochet. So let's go down, back, up, and go into the very next stitch. Yarn over, pull through, and now we're ready to do the half double crochet, and we're going to yarn over and pull through all 3 of those stitches. Yarn over, go into the next stitch, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, go through all 3. And this is just repeated down throughout, and you're going to be just as proficient with half double crochet as you are with the chain stitch, because you're going to have so much repetition. Down, back, up. That'll give us our yarn over. We're going to go into the very next stitch, yarn over, pull through, so that now we have 3 loops on that hook. We're able to do a yarn over and pull through all 3. Oops. See, I'm having to kind of finagle through there because sometimes your yarn kind of unravels. You snag part of the yarn. You have to be careful with that, so be sure you leave enough space on your hook, enough of a teardrop. Down, back, up, into the next stitch, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull all 3 of those. There you go. Down, back, up, into the next stitch, to all 3 of those. Now, keep on going, and I'll meet you at the back when I'm done and when you're done. All right, I've crocheted all across this ribbon. I only have 1 more stitch to go, so we'll go yarn over into the very last chain stitch, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through, and I have completed my ribbon. So let's tie off this, fasten off as they say, and to do that you do a chain stitch, down, back, up, pull through, and cut it off like that, and with your fingers continue to pull it through so it's a little knot there. And here I have my ribbon, and I have my starting tail, and then I have this little tail that I ended with. So what we want to do with this is make the end a nice shape. We're going to tie a knot. This is not the way you normally finish a crochet project, but on this one, that's what we're going to do. We're just going to do our normal overhand knot, and don't do it tight, tight, tight. You don't want to deform this little square end. And then do that again. So it's a nice tight little knot there. And that is not going to be coming loose. So we want to get rid of these little tails. We don't want all these little tails flopping around here. We don't have to worry. In many cases in crochet, you weave through your crochet project for 2 purposes. One is to hide the tail. Another is to more securely fasten that. We don't have to worry about securely fastening because we did do a knot, but we do want to hide this. So I'm using my finishing needle here, and I'm going to, I love these because it's so easy to thread it. And we're just going to freestyle go in and out of some of these stitches to hide this thread. So just go in and out. And don't deform your little lovely square end here. So don't pull too tight. I've got a lot of these little cross hatches, which makes a perfect spot to weave. Oops, just kind of fish around there till you find a good spot. You can feel when it's going to go through. And again, don't deform your end. And I'm just going to do this just for a little bit because I'm just trying to hide the end. I think that's far enough. If I was trying to keep it from tearing loose later, I would go back and forth, but this is just to hide the end. So be very careful as you cut off that end. Oops. That's another crochet project. So let's do that with the other one. And we'll just go in and out, and again, we don't want to deform our end here, so don't pull too tight. I'm just going to go down just a short ways, maybe an inch, 2 inches. Sometimes you're lucky and you can just zip right along. Okay, now I've hidden that, and I still have my little square end, which is very good. I carefully cut, and I'm left with this ribbon. 28 inches long, might be slightly shorter because when we did our half double crochet it might have tightened up, but that's okay. So we're going to form this into a Christmas tree, and to do that we take about 5 or 6 inches and just eyeball it and bend it and come back on itself. And now this wouldn't be much of a Christmas tree if it was a square, so you're going to bend it again, but you're going to bend it at a shorter spot. We're going to keep making this shorter and shorter. So we come across here with our next, and you see the way we are just making each row shorter. So on this row, we're going to fold it in even more. Fold it in, fold it in, fold it in, and I'm going to leave it like that. You just eyeball it and you do what looks good to you. Now this one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I actually have 8 bins, but you see that it makes the Christmas tree. Sometimes I have 6 bins, just depends, because I've only eyeballed it. I haven't done this. And so here is why we needed our long tapestry needle. We're just going to skewer this just so it stays in place, and you want to go right up the middle, and just go through each row right in a straight line right up the middle. Feel around for a good spot. It'll go in between stitches rather than through yarn, hopefully. See, I've caught some yarn here. There we go. Oh, but that makes it off center. Okay. Now, this should be better. It's doing good. Okay, now all this is doing is just holding this while I put in the pearls. So I have taken some DMC yarn, thread, and I've taken 20 inches. And now I'm going to use my finishing needle, or use the smaller tapestry needle. I've used the smaller tapestry needles, but just make sure that the size of the eye can still go through your pearl, the hole in the pearl. Let me pull over my pearls here. And we're just going to thread this finishing needle. And make a knot at the end. Just over, just the normal knot that you would make. We don't want to waste too much of our thread here, so don't make too long of a tail on it. The knot is to hold your pearls. So this is not very thick thread, so I'm going to make 2 or 3 knots on the end. And not 2 or 3 knots in a row. I want the 2 or 3 knot thickness, so I want it all the way down at the bottom. And sometimes you have to kind of move it down here because you're just trying to make that knot bigger. See, now I have 2 in a row, and that's not going to help because the pearl could still... There we go. Now I've got a bigger knot. So what I'm making now at the bottom here is the base of the tree. So you want 2 or 3 pearls. I'll do 3 to make the base of the tree. And I'll just go in right beside my large tapestry needle because I want this through the middle, and that will put my base right where I want it. So come on up and just leave your pearls hanging down here. Now we're going to put a pearl between every single row. Make sure you can see what our final product is going to be. And I'll go in through the next layer, come out through the center, and do this for each layer because you want that pearl right between each layer. Oops, this is a problem here because the whole point of this long tapestry needle was to skewer it all together, but we've only got 2 or 3 rows left, so it's still easily seen. So I didn't lose much. After every layer, you'll put in a bead. I can visualize all kinds of beads here. You don't have to use pearls. You could use other beads. That would be cute, but I like the simplicity of the crocheted ribbon and the clean white pearls. Okay, now let's get a pearl for the top. And you could put a star on there if you'd like. I just put pearls. And here I go. Tighten this up a little bit. And we have a lovely Christmas tree. Now, we'll just cut our needle right out of here. We don't need that anymore. And I'll do 2 or 3 knots. Again, I want it big to hold in the pearl. I'm afraid 1 knot out of this small yarn won't do it, so I'm going to do 2 or 3. I think that's going to hold it quite nicely. And now I'll make a knot at the top so that it forms a loop, and I can put this on a Christmas tree or a package for a decoration. And there I have it. My adorable little crocheted Christmas tree ornament.